Cuban-born sports writer Armando Salguero confronting 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick over a T-shirt Kaepernick wore which showed Fidel Castro. Now, Kaepernick made headlines in August when he started kneeling during the national anthem in protest or to protest police brutality and the treatment of people who are members of minorities. Miami Herald reporter Armando Salguero joins me now to discuss this, and even though you're a graduate of Miami High, I'll forgive you. I'm a Coral Gables Senior High graduate myself. It's good to see you, sir. ¿Cómo te va?
What's up, Cavalier?
I'm good. I think the reason I bring up our Miami connection is people who are outside, say, South Florida or even New Jersey, because there's a large Cuban-American population here, sometimes don't understand the great lengths that people went to come to the United States. They may not know about the Pedro Pan flights in which parents put their children on airplanes to leave Fidel Castro's Cuba without their parents so that their children could live free. And it doesn't sound like Mr. Kaepernick knows that part of this story, does he?
No, I don't think he does. I don't think he, in his studies of Fidel Castro, has gone into that part of the equation. My personal story is like a lot of other Cuban Americans. My family was broken up on the day that we were supposed to leave, the three of us, my mom, my dad, and myself. There was a guerrilla fighter at the foot of the stairs of the airplane who asked for our documentation. Upon checking it and seeing that it was fine, said, well, you're free to go, but I've personally decided that only two of you are getting out, so decide which two are going and who's staying. And my dad stayed behind, and I didn't see him again for 3 more years.
It's an amazing story. My stepdad's family was from Matanzas. They lost their farm. People got out individually, and similar kinds of stories. But let me ask you this. In your exchange with Mr. Kaepernick, and you were just trying to get him to explain why he would be a man who, one, is allegedly protesting oppression, and then wears a shirt that shows a human being who is a dictator and oppresses thousands, if not millions of people. So when he brought up the issue of literacy, and he talked about the literacy rate in Cuba compared to the United States, health care compared to health care in the United States, I mean, it seems as if his discussion is totally missing the point that you're trying to make.
Aside from the fact that his facts were wrong, in the United States, we do, in fact, spend more on education than we do on the prison system. I think it's like 4 times more. In Cuba, yeah, sure, they have a high literacy rate. But you know what? That's the same country where people are launching themselves into open waters, open shark-infested waters, to get away from that great literacy rate.
I mean, I think that what's lost on people like Mr. Kaepernick, who may or may not have grown up with people who have fled countries where they are oppressed, is this trying to have some kind of equivalency. I mean, Fidel Castro was a dictator, and Mr. Kaepernick trying to defend him just made no sense. It would have been very easy for him to say, I made a mistake, I should not have worn that shirt, and he didn't do that.
That's the galling part, and it's a person who has decided to become a spokesman for minorities, for people who are oppressed, for people who are systematically oppressed, to use his words, to then make that protest and hours later decide that I've made the protest and now I'm going to put on a Fidel Castro shirt, who was an all-time historical oppressor. It just makes no sense to me.
Armando Salguero, it was a pleasure having this discussion with you. Perhaps one day we can get a cafecito over Versailles. I would say Esquina de Texas, but it closed years ago. So all the best to you, sir.
At Versailles, perhaps.
Absolutely. I'll be there en a medianoche también. All the best to you, sir.
Igualmente.